let's do it. So
Yep.
we don't really have a polling system right now. Kind of would not let us set it up. So
So yeah,
uh,
feel free to use the chat, and
mhm.
we just want to kind of gauge the room, like how many people feel themselves are introverts.
Yeah, and don't be too shy, guys. Don't worry, no one's judging here. So just send it in the chat. And
Yep. Yep.
how's it looking, Chris? I can't see the.
We got Mark. Mark says him. Adam. Charles.
Is anyone
Anthony. Jennifer.
here not an introvert?
Doesn't look like it. I think we all
Doesn't
can
look like it.
relate to each
Yeah,
other.
I think yeah. So we all know how it can be. And so we kind of wanted to talk to you about a few things today, and we're going to go over what exactly an introvert is, how it affects us, a different topic, social anxiety, and then some professional strategies for dealing with all of this. We also have a Q&A at the end, so if you want to ask us anything, feel free. Um, so
And if
Chris,
anyone
did you?
wants to type
mm,
anything in the chat throughout the presentation, I'll be checking on that if you have any questions throughout.
uh, And so this really impacted both me and Chris. That's why we're here today. So I kind of wanted to talk about our stories and why we decided to do this topic. Chris, did you want to jump in?
Yeah, I can start us off. So, first of all, I just want to say that doing this presentation itself is kind of a step in the right direction for me. Still am an introvert, still feel that way. So, I think, giving a presentation to a group of people is kind of a step for me in that right direction. But in terms of my own personal experience, I would say one of the largest experience I've had in feeling that I was an introvert, feeling that social anxiety in like a professional environment. I was working as an IT consultant, and there were a lot of professional adults, and I was even younger than I am now at the time. So it made me feel really nervous, you know, having to talk to these adults who had been working in the field for years and years. I didn't want to seem unknowledgeable to them. I didn't want them to think I was just a kid. I wanted them to treat me with respect, but at the same time, like I was scared to go confront them myself. And I was still learning the job, and a lot of the IT technicalities I wasn't sure of yet, so it made me even more scared. But I think definitely the way I got through that was after some time had passed, I definitely made sure I had more one-on-one conversations with them. Just start to realize that these are people too. They're not just professionals. They all have their own lives. They all have personalities, and they're all, really friendly people. And that was a way that got me through that experience. And I also learned that it was okay to make mistakes, and no one actually wants to put you down. Everyone wants to help you. There's not many people out there who just want to discourage you for no reason. And just to sum it up, I still would say like I still get a little nervous talking to larger groups, but like I said, I'm still actively working on that, and it's kind of helped me in my progress.
Yeah, no, I mean, 100%. Similarly, I have felt some issues in professionalism with there's imposter syndrome, which is a different topic, but feeling like you don't really know what you're talking about. Um, and especially when you're talking to these people who've been in the field for 10, 20 years, it can be very intimidating. But beyond that, I've been dealing with being an introvert and social anxiety for a large part of my life. Growing up, I was really overweight, and it impacted my confidence a lot. So once I got to college, it took quite a while to kind of get enough confidence to even talk to my classmates, let alone make good connections with them, let alone go to career fairs and talk to recruiters. So, through my time, I think I've learned a few things about how you can live with it, because it's never something you can really solve. You're never going to be most likely the most outgoing person or the most charismatic, and probably not going to happen. But you can learn to cope with it and know your strengths and your weaknesses better. And one of me and Chris's ways that we really felt we improved this was we joined Theta Tau, which is the professional engineering organization here at UCF. And that was really, for me at least, a huge turning point. So, and it's what
Definitely.
gave me the ability to talk to you all today. So, that's a little bit of our stories and why we really cared about this. Um, Chris, did you have anything else to say?
Definitely have to agree with you on joining Data Ta as a way to help with this because definitely in general, finding like a group of peers that you feel comfortable with can be a great way to start breaking out of your shell.
Definitely.
You don't have to just dive head in first to just start speaking to like a group of professionals. Like you can start with say like your close friends or your family. It doesn't. Yeah, you can take small steps to progress. And I think for definitely for us, joining like a student organization like Data Ta definitely helped us.
Yeah, I would say so. And now, how many people view being an introvert in a negative light? If you could answer in the chat, just kind of get a general idea of how you guys feel about being an introvert. And I know personally for me, I used to look at it in a much more negative light than I do now. I feel like I've come to understand that it's not all bad. There are pros and cons to you know this being your personality. So um, yeah, it,
Yeah, and we but definitely
mm,
all like as we took like had that poll earlier, we all feel like we can relate to each other. This is not just like a one-off problem. Like a lot of people have to deal with this,
yeah.
and I think it doesn't have to be negative. Um, and I think there are definitely ways to play off to what you're good at and what you're passionate about, and that could definitely help you get out of this type of mindset.
And moving on from there, kind of what exactly is an introvert? Chris, did you want to go over this?
Yeah, so I'll just read over the slide real quick. Like, what is an introvert? An introvert is someone who could be overstimulated by social environments. So that could be professionally, just in your personal life. If you're surrounded by a lot of people, you experience a lot of stress. An introvert is someone who actually enjoys being by themselves. They prefer to be alone rather than with people all the time. Uh, an introvert is not necessarily a one defined person. It can kind of be on like a spectrum or a scale. You know,
Mhm.
if you ever heard of the term like a social battery, maybe you could be like in with a group of people for a few hours. Maybe after like 30 minutes, you feel exhausted and you kind of want to leave.
Yeah,
And and for the most part, people who are introverts prefer small groups and one-on-one interactions because as the group gets larger, they feel like more eyes are on them. They just want to stay away from attention for the
yeah,
most part.
yeah. That's exactly it. And another thing I wanted to talk about is it it doesn't have to be the same for every group you're in. Most people wouldn't say, "Oh, I'm an introvert around my family." I mean, some people maybe, but I think it really depends on who you're with as well. So it can be varying degrees based on that. Um, and moving on to the next slide, what are the
And I also
drawbacks?
just want to say real quick, like
Mhm,
the different like it could depend on like the experience you've had in your life could all be varying influences over the way um you perceive stressful social interactions. So just like another way of saying it's different for everyone.
yeah. And so some of the drawbacks, it can be harder to deal with conflict. It can be difficult to adjust to new situations, such as going to college, getting your first job, changing fields. It can be nerve wracking, and also you can be drained from social settings much easier. Um,
So yeah, just looking at these drawbacks, like it could look
okay.
really intimidating and it can make it hard for people to want to jump that first hurdle into any type of challenge of a social interaction and get out of their comfort zone.
Hmm.
And just kind of want to say that definitely should not let that hold you back. Y- Um, and going back to what I said about taking small steps, it's not always about just uh, going head first.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that. And then we have another group exercise right now. And if you guys could just write down basically three ways that you think you're being held back as an introvert, or three things you want to improve on in your social skills. Um, I would write them down and just keep track of that. And if anyone, I'll give you guys a little bit of time, but if anyone would like to share one way they think they're being held back or one thing they think they can improve on, we'd love it if you share it in the chat with us. So,
In a quick chat we missed earlier, Daniel
mhm,
said, feels like a lot of people think I won't be able to deal with clients or be good in a team building setting. But then he said, though once, as a question, though once I'm comfortable, I excel. Um,
mhm,
yeah, that just goes back to like the example I used in like a professional environment. Like you're afraid that people won't be accommodating and
yeah,
they'll just look down on you. But you kind of just have to remember that everyone starts somewhere, and for the most part, and in my experience, I think most people want to help and not necessarily be condescending to you. They want you to grow because it's kind of like I would say they want to create like a nourishing environment where if you grow, other people grow, and s-
yeah.
yeah, and
I would say, yeah, most people aren't intentionally, trying to put you down, or and I know it's easy to, especially for people like us, it's easy to kind of assume negatives on situations, like assume people don't think you can do something, or assume people think you messed up or you didn't do a good job on a project. But a lot of times it's not true, or you're overthinking it, which is super common. uh, Chris, did anyone share anything that they thought was holding them back?
no, but I can still. Oh, Anthony said I can improve on feeling less anxious when talking to people in a tense situation. It's easy to forget that important people live normal lives.
Yeah, I would say, it is very difficult in, tense situations to talk, everything's amplified. So I would say that's something we could all probably work on. So thank you for sharing.
Definitely,
All right.
definitely.
And Chris, did you have anything you wanted to share, or do you want to move on to the next slide?
Yeah, I'll just quickly follow up with Daniel's second comment about
Hmm.
once you become comfortable. Yeah, based on my own personal experience, the longer you spend in that type of environment, the more comfortable you feel. So, and that also kind of goes back to, joining any type of student organization or something like that. The longer time you spend in there, the more comfortable you come with the people. You could definitely excel in your social interactions and just be comfortable with talking to new people overall. So, all right,
And
ready to move on?
yeah, and so the truth is, a lot of the things you associate with problems from being an introvert have more to do with social anxiety and confidence more than just being an introvert. Um, and so, what exactly is social anxiety? It's not equivalent to being an introvert. And we all have varying degrees of this. Some so severe it becomes a disorder, and it can get in our way a lot of the time. It can stop you from really showing your knowledge during an interview. It can give you a bad first impression when you meet a recruiter, and even in regular life, it can give you, um, it can prevent you from making connections that could lead to, opportunities. So, and even not in the moment, just the fact that it can keep you from going to things, it can keep you from putting yourselves in situations because you're uncomfortable. So, this is really what we want to tackle more than, being an introvert, is conquering your social anxiety. It can manifest itself in things as simple as, raising your hand in class, talking on the phone in public, speaking to a store employee. These things seem ridiculous, but Those are some of the most reported things that people get anxiety doing. Um,
Yeah, and I kind of just want to differentiate between social anxiety and being an introvert.
mhm,
So when you're looking at introvertedness, like how we went over before, it's someone who enjoys being alone, being quiet and secluded, whereas a person with social anxiety experiences extreme stress, anxiety, frustration over their social interactions.
mhm.
To it can get to the point where they're almost like non-functional.
Yeah,
So just kind of differentiate between the two.
yeah, and for something as severe as that, it takes um, you know, therapy, and so hopefully, all of us haven't had to deal with that. But if you do, feel free to talk to us. We don't exactly have experience with anything that bad, but we're always willing to help. Um, and then, I wanted to ask the crowd: does anyone here have an example they want to share of something that gives them anxiety? In a professional setting, even in a day-to-day setting. What
Uh,
really,
in the
gets.
chat, Charles says, I feel like being an introvert limits my creativity since sometimes I discard ideas that I have because I
Mhm.
overthink about what others think of that idea.
Yeah, no, I think that's completely valid. And I would say to that, it's funny how you can be so in your own head, but thinking about other people most of the time. So that's just got to be more. You got to trust your ideas, and the fact that you can come up with interesting things. Um,
Yeah,
so
I
do
kind of
you have
think
an
there's a
example?
line between
Mm-hmm.
being mindful of what you say, but also not holding back and expressing your opinions. And
Mm-hmm.
I would say it would benefit you if you actually think you have a great idea to not just be afraid and like say what you think.
Yeah,
Um, but the worst that could happen is you can get some constructive criticism, have a
exactly.
nice discussion over it. Uh, I don't see any benefit in holding back, you know?
Yeah, I would agree. Um, so if no one has an example they'd like to share, I mean, a random example for me that I used to have. I remember back in like middle school, whenever it was my birthday, I would literally freak out. Right? I don't know why. I used to have kind of bad social anxiety, and literally the weirdest thing, people would be like, "Happy birthday, Aaron," and I hated the attention of getting people saying that on my birthday. So it can be, people have to deal with some things that you might not even, you'd be like, what? That's like, not normal. But you have to go through these things, and you grow, and you can look back and be like, I really overthought that. So it's it's a crazy thing we have to deal with.
Yeah, for me, it's like obviously they all sound kind of silly, just
Yeah.
like maybe calling a restaurant to make reservations, like calling, a doctor or a dentist to make an appointment. Like, are they going to ask me about insurance? I'm not going to know the answer. Am I going to seem like I don't know anything about my own insurance and
Yeah.
healthcare and all that? It's just stuff like that can get in your head for no reason.
Yeah, no, definitely. And then going from something similar to that to having to do an interview, it's like you know can be very intimidating.
Definitely.
Um, and so, some examples of social anxiety: not speaking due to embarrassment, avoiding public places so you don't have to interact with people. When it gets really bad, blushing, shaking, sweating when put in social situations. And I would say the main thing is just negative thoughts about how things will turn out. Even for this, it's like, man, will people show up? Will people enjoy it? You're just having all these negative thoughts about it, but you can't do that to yourself. You have to have a more positive outlook. You know.
Yeah, I definitely think there's some like extreme pessimism that goes along with social anxiety.
Hmm.
You're really just expecting the worst to happen at all times. Everything that can go wrong will go wrong.
Yeah.
But that's really just not the reality. Even though, yeah, the nerves, going back, like blushing, shaking, like just blanking out in the moment are all possibilities, but there are definitely ways to work on that. And I think we'll be getting into that next.
So I guess before we get into the strategies, the ways of coping, uh, do you want to go through this, Chris?
Yeah, so ways of coping, these are some normal ways people try to get past their own social anxiety. Um, so just to quickly go over it, avoiding public places. You don't want to be seen in public. Uh, just avoiding large crowds, basically. Smiling and laughing at everything. You're just trying to make light of everything. Try to seem like you're enjoying the situation when you're really not at all. Hiding away from any kind of attention kind of goes the same thing. Being quiet and unassertive, that's not saying anything. Maybe you feel like it's better off that you don't say anything at all rather than voicing your opinion. Making excuses for not going to social events, just pretty much flaking on everyone, just not
Yeah,
going to anything, just avoiding all your problems. Being standoffish and disengaged, just maybe acting like you don't care, so you don't actually have to listen and talk.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah,
I
all
would
these
say,
ways people do to just try to avoid their problems and not confront them directly, which it really isn't the healthiest, and it won't help you progress for them really.
no. And over here we have some strategies, me and Chris use or we've heard are good for, actually dealing with these things. So, Chris, do you want to read the in the moment ones, and then I'll do the long term ones?
Yeah, for sure. So in the moment, get out of your own head and think of others. Small acts of kindness, listening and questions, using humor. Um, if you mess up, it's easy to just make a joke out of it and just make light of the situation. Um, let's say, yeah, small acts of kindness, just being polite in general, just showing someone like your content of character, is showing that you're a good person, stuff like that. Make sure you listen to the person and respond with things that they said, so they know you're actively listening to them and you know that you're engaged in their conversation. Um, and yeah, so this is just some strategies for in the moment.
And I would say long term, for me at least, exercising, working out, just overall being healthy, that really gave me a lot more confidence. And I think that will help most people. Along with that, a lot of people like to meditate, do calming exercises. I've done this every once in a while, but to be honest, it like makes me think more about, being nervous. So it really doesn't help me that much. Getting a lot of sleep, that's always good. With no sleep, you're gonna have a rough time. And then just talk to your friends about it. Seek a counselor if you need to, if it gets severe, and try to be honest with yourself and find the root of why you have these negative feelings or this social anxiety.
Yeah,
Um,
and like back to what I was saying earlier, just speaking to a small group of like your family, your really close friends. If you want to practice for like an interview, do a mock interview with maybe a friend in the same major, or something like that, just to break that barrier. And all good, Gustavo. If you feel like you want to say anything, I'll be reading the chat.
um, and then so now more on to the networking strategies. And our number one thing is you need to find your group. I mean, obviously you don't have to, but it just makes life a lot easier. Instead of trying to because what is networking? It's trying to create a network of people. Um, and you could either go and try to create your whole own network. It's going to be very tough, or you jump into one of these already existing ones. And the three right here are great. I mean, IEEE, great organization. Night Hacks, another great one. We're a little biased for Theta Tau, but any of these options I think are a great starting point, both professionally and socially, to just kind of meet more people and make long lasting connections.
Yeah, and I definitely think this is as students, like we have such an advantage because we're able to be involved in so many different clubs and organizations that, once you graduate, it could be a lot harder to try to find people who relate to you in that way. Everyone, we're all students, so we're all getting our foot in the door. We're all developing our professional selves to the best of our ability, and by joining organizations like these, we could all help each other and help improve each other.
Yeah. And I would say the thing with these is also try to reach out to someone that you may know in one of these organizations, or maybe try to get a friend to go with you to the meetings or info sessions. Because at least for me, that's always made me a lot more comfortable. So if you can do that, I think it's great, and it doubles your networking ability pretty much. If your friend meets someone, introduce them to you, you can help out your friend. It works better that way. So suggest that. Um, and then another thing, like I said, bring a buddy is always good. Always great, and it really reduces anxiety overall. Another thing, speak to individuals, not the group. I've definitely learned this. Whenever I give a presentation that's not online, the main thing, you look at an individual and you talk to them when you're giving the presentation. You can switch between people, but you don't want to just be talking at the crowd. Uh,
Definitely.
and then, don't be discouraged in the beginning. This is a long process of trying to become more comfortable with yourself and learning how to network. It's not something that you're going to get immediately. So don't be discouraged if you're not having insane success within the first couple of weeks, the first one or two times you go out and try to network. So don't worry about that.
Oh, that's awesome to hear, Gustavo. I definitely agree. Participating in like this organization like Data Ta, my social skills have definitely improved a ton.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, and like definitely, if you're even scared to join groups like these, maybe you could try to find like a friend who's already involved, and maybe they can bring you along, start introducing you to people in there.
Hmm.
It may make the experience a little easier to get going for yourself.
Definitely. And if it wasn't for being in the organization, we'd never be here. I would have never met Chris. So
Yeah.
it's great.
Yeah, Daniel, we could answer a couple more questions about Data Todd towards the end of the presentation if you were curious about that.
Um, Glad to hear people are interested, though. That's nice. Um,
Definitely.
and so, Chris, you want to take over the slide?
So, just to kind of sum it up in the end, so sell yourself as yourself. You kind of want to, I think it's important to be your own authentic self and show who you really are. Because if you try to come off as someone who is not yourself, you look to be ingenuine, and if someone catches wind of that, it's not a great impression at all. And in the first place, that definitely could be exhausting for you to even try to put up that front. And if you have a hard time like conversing, it could be a good idea to talk about things that maybe you are passionate about. If you're having a tough conversation, you could talk about your own passions, but also to engage whoever you're talking to. You definitely want to ask them about their own passions, and between that, you can find commonalities and interests between the both of you, and really spark a great conversation. But to
Yeah,
just go over the slide real quick, don't force yourself to be someone you're not. Don't try to turn yourself into an extrovert. This is all just kind of going back to just be yourself. That this whole really slide I feel can be summed up as just be yourself and be
yeah,
comfortable with who you are. Um, so your skills cannot speak for themselves, and anyone can speak with confidence.
yeah,
So basically, it's not every you can always improve on yourself. You can be confident in yourself. It's not impossible. Everyone could do it.
yeah,
It might take a little longer for some people to work up that skill, but it's definitely a possibility for everyone.
yeah. And I would say, just going off that, it's like, just because you're quiet doesn't mean you can't speak with confidence. Doesn't mean you can't be, someone that people listen to. You know. And another thing I really wanted to go back to and kind of clarify, for or not clarify, like drill in, is your skills cannot speak for themselves, right? This has been is since professionalism has been a thing, people always talk about, it's not what you know, it's who you know. For us, it is a little bit about what you know, but no one's going to be able to know. It's very easy to just think that you can get really good at coding, you can get really good as an engineer, be a smart person. And I see a lot of people who think this, and then who I honestly believe are smarter than me, and then they don't really end up getting any decent internships, or they have a hard time getting a job. And it really comes down to, you need the ability to sell yourself, and that comes with time, and it comes with gaining confidence in what you can do, and especially in your communication skills, because a lot of people get to the interview and they break down. So definitely, I believe everyone here is probably technically very solid, but you all have to work on the ability to sell yourself. Um, and going on to the next slide. Oh, I just kind of wanted to talk about the fact that these problems aren't going to be solved in a day. It takes a long time, and it's very easy to fall back into being comfortable. And to really develop as a professional, you have to go and get out of your comfort zone, um, and be with people who you don't normally talk to. Uh, go to different events that you never saw yourself going to, and really push to improve your communication skills, the same way that you push to improve your technical skills. And this is just done by every day, trying a little harder to talk to people, and it's a skill that can be learned just the same as you know how Anthony loves Python so much. So
Yeah,
um,
and I also think it's great, like everyone who came out here today. I think
mhm,
that in itself speaks a lot to, the type of drive everyone here has to, if definitely if they related to this presentation or if they learned anything, it's definitely a step in the right direction. So, you know, just to reiterate, these things take time. It's not the same for everyone. And yeah, just being yourself, taking into account some of the strategies we have discussed, definitely can improve the way you feel about approaching social interactions, especially professional ones, because those are definitely more often than not a lot more intimidating.
yeah. And I think now it is time for Q&A, if anyone's got any questions for us. And just again, thank you so much for showing up. It means a lot to me. So
Yeah,
yeah,
thanks
dude.
everyone for
Yeah.
coming into our presentation. So I'll be sitting in the chat if anyone has any questions. But thank you for coming.
And I
Appreciate
guess we could
that
go back
power
to
pose, Anthony.
uh, and we can also probably go back to Daniel's question really quick. Do you want to answer that one, Chris?
Yeah, so you wanted to know about Rush. Definitely Rush is, yeah, I'm assuming you're referring to a few months ago, but Rush is usually the first week of school. So definitely look out for us during the first week of the spring semester. Um, yeah, we do have a website, and the information about Rush Week is usually on there. So I'm not sure if the website's up to date right now for the spring information yet, but I could
Let
definitely
me.
drop the link.
Yeah, are you about to drop it? So I can get it.
If you got it, go for
Yeah, I
it.
got it. Okay. So yeah, I mean, if anyone's interested, that is our website. Great organization. Again, I mean, I guess we're doing a plug now, but really,
Yeah,
really great
so
people.
just that we're professional engineering fraternity. We are co-ed, so it is boys and girls.
Yeah.
And basically, we focus on our three pillars of professionalism, community service, and brotherhood. Uh, it's really, I mean, it's a place that I love being around all the people. I love it. I love being there. It helps me professionally, but also socially. And definitely gets me involved in my community. So all around, I feel pretty passionate about it, and
Mhm.
yeah. So if anyone has any questions about it,
Yeah, and
definitely feel free to ask.
me and Chris are like the worst people there. So you go meet the other guys, you're like, wow,
Yeah,
I love this place.
everyone there is extremely impressive, and can only hope to be like them one day.
Yeah.
Aaron and they barely like us over there.
Uh, all right. No other questions. You know what? Is Ant still on? I think he is. Anthony, I think you have to ask a question, man. I
Hey,
appreciate it.
appreciate that. Appreciate that.
Oh,
Oh man.
um, how much I could completely lie to everyone right now. I'm just saying, there's no way to prove it.
That's true. That's true. So 315.
Yeah,
315.
for
To
reps,
answer
yeah,
your question. Oh, yeah, for a 5x5.
yeah. All right. Well, I think that's wrapping it up. If no one else has any questions, but thank you guys a lot. Hopefully, you got something out of it, and feel free to reach out to us. I'll throw my LinkedIn in. Another shameless plug.
Uh, It's a great idea.
All right. Well, I think it might be time to jump off. All right. I
Alrighty.
appreciate it, and have a good day, everyone. Yeah.
Yep. Thanks everyone for coming out.